Good afternoon. Welcome back to Venture Daily. On today's show, Hollywood heavyweights Disney and Universal are suing AI darling Midjourney for allegedly mass-producing bootleg versions of their iconic characters, from Yoda to the Minions, in what they call a billion-dollar AI-powered copyright heist.
And Trump claims he sealed a great deal with China, restoring trade peace, locking in rare earth mineral access and student visas, while slapping a fixed 55% tariff on Chinese imports that he says is here to stay. I'm Josiah Simons.
I'm Jackson Fordyce. It's Thursday, June 12th. Let's get you smarter today. Tulsi Gabbard fed the JFK assassination files into an AI, yeah, really, and asked it, which of these should still be classified?
That's right. Instead of a team of analysts, she ran tens of thousands of government documents through an AI model to speed up the review process.
The result? Around 80,000 pages were released 2 months into Trump's second term. No major bombshells, just hard to read, handwritten memos, and mystery documents.
Now, Gabbard, who oversees the entire U.S. intelligence community, says she wants to bring more private sector AI tools into classified work, including top-secret chatbots.
All this while she's reportedly rewriting intel reports to protect Trump and trying to turn White House briefings into Fox News-style broadcasts.
So, yeah, the future of national security might just look like ChatGPT in the Situation Room. All right, before we jump into today's headlines, I want to tell you about Public. If you take investing seriously, you need to know about public.com. That's where you can invest in everything: stocks, options, bonds, crypto. You can even earn some of the highest yields in the industry, like the 7% or higher yield you can lock in with a bond account. Public is a FINRA-registered SIPC insured platform that takes your investments as seriously as you do. Fund your account in 5 minutes or less at public.com/venture and get up to $10,000 when you transfer your old portfolio. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in the podcast description. Go check it out. Our link, public.com/venture. And the app is great. We fully endorse it, and it really helps support the show.
Absolutely.
All right, Jackson, tell us.
Yep, big news today. Disney and Universal are teaming up to sue Midjourney, the AI image generator, for allegedly using their iconic characters like those from Star Wars, The Simpsons, Shrek, without their permission.
That's right. The studios claim Midjourney ignored cease and desist letters and kept pushing out new versions of its models to the tune of $300 million in revenue last year. They're calling it calculated and willful piracy and demanding a jury trial.
And this is the first time a major Hollywood players have taken legal action like this in the AI space. Disney and Universal say it's about defending the artists and investments behind their IP, but Midjourney has not commented yet.
But with AI tools spreading fast, this case could set the tone for how copyright law collides with generative tech. And Jackson, I want to show you this.
Yeah.
So this is how Midjourney's developed just since 2022. So
wow.
Version 1 there, you've got like this guy's face, but it
looks like something you see in a dream.
Yeah, it looks like something you see in a dream. Version 2, not much better. Version 3, okay, now starts looking like a real person. Version 4, wow, we're getting real detail. Yeah. This looks like it's from a video game. By the time we get to version 5 and version 5.1, which was released still also in 2022.
Yeah, that's a couple months apart.
This is just a couple months apart. This is like fully photorealistic. Okay, so
yeah.
Here's some of what Midjourney has created in regard to these Disney franchise products. So you got Yoda here. That's a Disney copyrighted character. You've got Buzz Lightyear.
Right. Darth Vader.
We've also got Toy Story, Cars, The Simpsons, Shrek.
Dang, dude.
Okay, so yeah. And people are saying, this is a significant lawsuit as a legal precedent. It's not just a clash over a few images. Like, it could reshape how U.S. copyright law applies to AI-generated content. And as we know, Disney has really good lawyers. So
100%.
This is what I've been seeing in the Midjourney world. You've got Midjourney's tombstone here and Darth Vader looking over it, sad in the rain.
Yeah, if you run into the Disney lawyers, man, just good luck. Good luck, Midjourney.
Yeah.
We are for tech. We love tech. We love innovation.
Right.
Best of luck to Midjourney during this time. And
best of luck.
But I talked to someone named Jeff Smith, who I feel like is a really great person to dive into this kind of story, to talk about it. And we can hear more from Jeff's answer in his intro.
Howdy, I'm Jeff Smith. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Second Set AI. We're an early stage generative AI startup working in visual media generation here in New York.
And so Disney's characters have been used for AI-generated content for years now. Why did Disney and Universal decide to file a lawsuit against Midjourney now? And here's Jeff's answer.
I think this has been playing out in the courts for a while, and I think there's also been a pattern of cease and desist as well. And so in this case, I'm pretty sure that all of these rights holders have asked Midjourney to stop repeatedly through their lawyers over the course of years. Some of the preceding case law is really going to establish the playbook for how lawyers try to address some of these things. And so the biggest early cases were against Stability AI, but then there have also been recent follow-up cases that have made it clear that when there's a real clear commercial context of what the product's being used for, that you're solidly outside the fair use doctrine. And so I think that's opened the door. And so we're really only a few months down the line from, I think, was the Thomson Reuters case that made it clear when you're selling a product that does something quite similar in a commercial context, then you're outside of fair use. And so I think that opens the doors for all these rights holders to get their lawyers organized to address the issues.
They're like, Disney tells Midjourney, hey, I got to stop using our content, okay?
Yeah.
Midjourney's like,
And they haven't responded at all. They just
they've
totally ignored.
They've ghosted all of Disney's emails and calls.
Pretty much.
Midjourney, you have to stop.
And it's like, I think at this point,
I don't want to stop.
I think Disney was always going to file a lawsuit, but they maybe were hoping Midjourney would quit the work they were doing. But maybe, I mean, it's kind of like with Target, where they let you steal up until like $3,000.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if this is the same thing.
It's not worth it to chase you down over.
Yeah, they have this file on you until you've stolen enough to now they can hit you with like a much bigger charge. Maybe Disney's doing the same thing with Midjourney.
But it's been a couple years, so I was wondering with Jeff, like, does Disney have a strong case, or will fair use and transformative use defenses apply here?
I think they have a strong case. It remains to be seen exactly how some of this will be playing out in the courts, and it will probably play out, well, it'll almost definitely play out differently across geographies. Chinese IP law is not the same as European IP law, is not the same as American IP law. But even within the context of the US, I think you see substantial impact of the current federal administration on what the Copyright Office's signal, and then what holds up in lower courts and things like that. And so I think there's certainly been the recent outcomes of having shown that because there is commercial use, because there are substantial revenues here, that the use case is sufficiently similar to the original use case, that fair use doesn't hold, and thus I think that a lot of these generative visual media products are really on pretty shaky footing.
So it looks like Disney's probably going to win this case eventually. But if they do, I've heard some people talking about what that might lead to. And someone on Reddit was saying something that I think is unlikely, but it's kind of funny. He said, this is going to lead to AI packs. So basically like how you can buy Disney Plus for $15 a month.
Sure.
You can watch all their stuff. Same will be for all of their content. So you can, for $15 a month, get the Disney pack, the AI pack. Then you can generate any image you want
Marvel
with a
pack.
Disney character. Yeah, Marvel would be included in the Disney pack. But then you could also get
Universal
all these
pack.
different like massive media companies who have all these characters. You could buy into their pack and use it to create images.
You can make your own image, perhaps, or your own movie is what it's saying.
Yeah, you could create your own movie. You could create your own clip or GIF or just
a
image.
world where Shrek and The Simpsons and Loki.
I think it's a lot harder, though. It's unlikely because that's a lot harder to like control for Disney than with Disney Plus. They can just have one person pay and you watch their content.
Yeah.
But you're not now like owning the content in a way where you could use it to create other content yourself.
I see.
Whereas what Midjourney is doing is you can create all your content. It's totally yours, but it's all Disney characters. So I feel like this is not likely that they're going to allow that, but maybe in the future that's what the generative AI packs will look like.
I was wondering with Jeff too, like what legal precedent could this lawsuit set for using copyrighted materials to train AI models?
Yeah, it could make it necessary that folks obtain licenses and provide opt-in and opt-out facilities. In general, like the surface area of model training is quite ragged around who provides the ability for companies to. So very few people license all of their content. Most of it relies on a fair use assumption. Where there are licensing agreements in place, they're quite fragmentary. They're a very small percentage of what's covered. And even then, those licensing is often about training, but not necessarily about the replication. And so that's actually kind of the largest problem here, is that everyone who allows for the replication of these things, and so that really gets into a lot more downstream companies, because in general there's quite weak technical solutions on the market from most players these days in terms of how much they protect against this unauthorized replication. I think that's where they run into some of the largest issues, is that it's not just that they did some math on top of the images and learned some generative visual techniques, but rather they are in fact replicating these copyrighted images, and that's where I think they're going to have the hardest time escaping the legal consequences, because it's fairly clear the replication has certain commercial context to it.
Right. So it's clear that they are doing this. Like, there's so much content out there with Disney characters on it, and Disney and Universal are not happy. Like, they've got quotes like, Midjourney, here's a quote, Midjourney is the quintessential copyright-free writer and a bottomless pit of plagiarism. The movie studio is called the actions calculated and willful. So
they're not downright evil. They are the scum of the earth, and they should be burned in hell. Is basically what Disney.
It's basically what Disney. Yeah, allegedly, and they want it to be a jury trial. They want this to be public. Yeah, they want to make a They want to make
the next Disney documentary is going to be around this trial, like what happened in that room.
Right.
I guess we find out with the jury.
Yes, they want to make an example of Midjourney. So Jackson,
that's pretty silly, but I asked Jeff,
what is silly about that?
Do we really need a jury trial for this little skirmish between
it's
Disney,
not a skirmish. They're saying that their content is being stolen, and it kind of is.
And so we need a jury to decide on that.
I don't know. I mean, they want to make it public so that they can assume this. The assumption is that they want to set a precedent that they can use this case to go to a wider other Gen AI companies.
What's the thing is, quote, up in the bedrock incentives of U.S. copyright law and are demanding a jury trial. Why, Jeff, do you think that they are insisting on a jury trial?
I think because jury trials are loud, they're reported on by an order of magnitude more people. I think they're looking for more than simply some revenues from a company that's still a privately held startup, admittedly one making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But I think their goal is to move this entire sector into a licensing model where at least the vast majority of IP protected content is in fact trained off of a license, and that generative replication is controlled by explicit agreements. And so the best way to do that is to make that very public, very loud, very long, very expensive conversation, which is what a public jury trial does. And I think makes this a quite central and big topic, and hopefully brings a lot of the other players to the table. In particular, like Midjourney has one product, is a privately held startup, so their resources are going to be substantially more constrained than, for example, the limitless resources of Google, who has a product that does the exact same thing. And so I think that may be part of the choice to focus on Midjourney, because it's an exclusively consumer application, or prosumer in some cases. Lots of revenues, very small company, very small resources, no backstop. I think that makes it clear that the lawyers will be in a very good position to make a strong case and have this be the precedent that sets the terms of the market.
So you're saying easy win, go up against Midjourney, maybe an easy win, and then that sets a legal precedent that they can now go after Google and OpenAI and the much bigger players that have a lot more money.
That's what happens when you're an innovative company.
Yeah.
When you're changing the world, whenever you're
innovative company that steals from Disney.
Yeah, you call it stealing?
I don't know. I think so.
Creative control over images and assets.
Right, but those images.
Today's episode is sponsored by Midjourney. If you want our promo code,
it's not sponsored by Midjourney.
VD20 in the description. I'm joking. No, but thank you to Jeff Smith for being on the show today.
All right, Jackson. Next up, what do we got?
Yes, China-U.S. trade deal, maybe a truce. President Trump says the United States and China have reached a new trade deal framework, reviving a fragile truce that includes lower tariff rates and a renewed access for Chinese students to American universities.
That's right. The deal also removes China's export restrictions on rare earth minerals, which are critical for everything from electric vehicles to military tech. In return, the U.S. keeps a 55% tariff on Chinese goods, a mix of old and new penalties that the Trump team says is non-negotiable.
Negotiators met in London after a phone call between Trump and President Xi helped break the impasse from last month's faltering Geneva talks.
Trump called it a great deal, but many details remain unclear, including how enforcement will work and what each side gave up on export controls.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent insists there's no trade-off between U.S. chip exports and Chinese rare earths, and warns the devil's still in the details. And yeah, it's an interesting story. I didn't realize how important these rare earth minerals are to the United States, and how we have such a lack of these in our country that we outsource all of these to China. And so I did a little deep dive on
China's upper hand.
China's upper hand. Metals. Yeah, rare earth metals. And so I did a deep dive of which ones are we actually talking about.
For anyone who's listening and not watching, we've got
I'm about to go nerd mode
element periodic table of elements here, and we're showing the
lanthanides.
The lanthanides, which is the lanthanides. The lanthanides. We know what we're talking about.
Yes,
the lanthanides, which are rare earth metals. Jackson, yes. Tell us.
I learned this from Ted Feldman, who is the founder and CEO of Durin. It's an El Segundo-based company that focuses on rare earth mineral mining. And so the four that he said are the most important to America is neodymium, which is mainly used for electric vehicles, wind turbines, headphones, hard drives, military systems.
Right.
I think it's number 60
Number 60,
on the chart there.
ND.
ND. Dysprosium is another one. It's similar, and to improve heat resistance for EV motors and defense systems like missiles, aerospace technology, nuclear reactors.
Okay.
Number 66 on there.
66, okay. DY.
Yeah, praseodymium is another one for mainly focused on aircraft engines. It helps, you mix it with the neodymium apparently.
Gotcha.
It's for satellites, glass polishing, and the last one, TB, terbium, which makes the magnet stronger and is used in green phosphorus. So like we see in green lasers, military optics, and things like that. And so those are primarily...
Where are these rare earth metals found? Are these primarily in China?
Primarily in China. That's where we do most of the drilling is done there. And I was learning that a big reason we don't drill here in the United States is like they're in remote areas of the country.
So they exist here on U.S. soil.
As far as we know, yes. We don't have a ton of knowledge of where they are, and if they are here, like they are in usually protected land, whether it's reservations or in national parks.
Gotcha.
And the reason we don't drill here that much is like it's a really tough job to do. You're isolated. You're in the middle of nowhere in really hot or really cold temperatures. It's just not a sexy job to do, and so we outsource a lot of that from China, and we are just so dependent and reliant upon China for those metals for our defense systems and for our satellites and aerospace technology. And the 55% tariff breakdown is broken down into this. Like we pay the United States, whether you're a manufacturer here, you're a tech company here, a logistics partner, they pay the 55% tariff on new earth minerals or rare earth minerals coming into the United States to the U.S. Customs. And that breakdown, like you mentioned earlier, is 25% of it is from existing Trump tariffs. 20% is this new fentanyl-related penalty tariff where President Trump has said that Canada, Mexico, and China have, like, in a way colluded to flowing opioids, fentanyl specifically, into the United States. And so because of that, there is a tariff on exports from those countries.
Okay.
And the last one is this new 10% reciprocal tariff from this new negotiation. And so U.S. buyers, like manufacturers, like tech companies, have to pay that to U.S. Customs, and that the 55% tariff.
55%. Okay.
And that trickles down to the U.S. consumer with either higher prices for electric vehicles, or maybe it hurts the business by taking lower margins that way.
Okay.
And
which business?
Like the manufacturers, like they'll have like we'll eat that and have less margins, lower margins on our business. And then finally, the 10% tariff that's on China is the same way. Like if we, like say for example, we ship Boeing parts to China for their airplanes, they'll pay a 10% tariff on those coming in to Chinese customs, and then that will trickle down too.
So Trump is saying we need the rare earth minerals from China. 100%. We need to make some sort of a deal, but at the same time, he's going to penalize American companies 55% from buying from China. So he's saying kind of things that disagree with each other.
Yeah.
You've got this penalty for dealing with China, but at the same time, he's saying we need to make deals with China because we rely on their exports.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, and I think it's because like that's why companies like Durin and Astroforge, like these startups that are trying to, bolster up this economy of rare earth mining in the United States, it's like we need to rely less on China because it's a national security issue that we rely so much on a country that we really aren't friends with.
Sure.
For something so important like defense, like aerospace technology. And so it is pretty funny that that's the case right now.
Right. All right. Well, thank you to Jackson Fordyce for the
I am
the
now
breakdown.
the rare earth mineral guru expert. I'm so not. So actually, thank you to Ted Feldman at Durin for giving me most of that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Jackson, we have a new segment.
Our funding highlight, the startup we're highlighting today, is Quantum Space, a Maryland-based spacecraft manufacturer who just raised $40 million in additional Series A funding, making their total Series A funding around $57 million, and the raise will go towards the development of Ranger, the company's spacecraft platform built for multi-orbit national defense missions. And according to the team, they've, quote, secured U.S. government contracts and are expanding aggressively to meet defense and commercial demand.
Check this thing out. It's a highly maneuverable, this is the Ranger, modular platform that can refuel other satellites, operate across low Earth to cislunar orbits, and persist for up to 15 years.
Wow.
So congrats to Quantum Space on the raise. Jackson, do they have next on the American Dynamism 50?
They might. Maybe they should. Maybe, or the Black Flag 100.
Or the Black Flag 100, yeah, absolutely.
One or the other.
All right, before we finish up today, we have our last story.
Yep.
It's about the very sad news that's coming out of India.
Yep. An Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed just seconds after takeoff on Thursday, killing 244 people. This is the Boeing Dreamliner's first catastrophic crash since its debut in 2011.
CCTV footage shows the plane lifting off from Ahmedabad, then plummeting barely 30 seconds later, powerless, into a residential neighborhood. The pilot managed a mayday call, but it was too late.
Only one person survived, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, a British Indian man who somehow crawled from the wreckage and was found limping through the street, surrounded by debris and bodies.
The Dreamliner slammed into a doctor's hostel and other homes, with authorities saying more victims were likely on the ground. Over 200 bodies have been recovered so far, and I think 244 people have been confirmed as being passed away.
Yeah, with dozens of British nationals on board, leaders in the UK and India are calling it devastating and heartbreaking beyond words. An investigation is now underway into how Boeing's flagship jet went down.
All right. That's it for Venture Daily. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope we helped you get a little bit smarter today.
And thank you to Content Stack for allowing us to film here in Austin, Texas. If you like today's show, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or X, leave us a like, a comment, and a review. Throw us a 5-star rating if you think we earned it. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow morning on Venture Daily.